Hello and welcome to my Yu-Gi-Oh channel. So today we're looking at a brand new set from Duel Links called Main Box 31 Shark Fang. We're going to be looking at the reprints within this pack. Giski Cyclone is a water attribute fiend ritual monster. Its effect is you can ritual summon this card with any ritual Giski card, spell card. Once per turn you can declare one monster type and attribute. Look at one random card in your opponent's hand, and if it is a monster of the declared type and attribute, shuffle it into the deck, otherwise return it to the hand. This is a 2150 attack and 1650 defense monster as well. Depending on what your opponent is running, this could be good or it could be bad. You get some hand knowledge to understand what they're running, but the problem is that you could be pot luck. I mean, there are certain archetypes where it's maybe beneficial to do that. Blue Eyes White Dragon, Red Eyes Black Dragon, Dark Magician, to name a few of those archetypes. Maybe even Subterra if you want to push it to that. Elemental Hero, where certain types are very standardized, but then again, you're rolling the dice on this. If you do have access to cards such as, I can't remember whether this is actually in the game yet, the Eye of Truth. It lets you see your opponent's hand. In exchange, I think each turn they get 1,000 life points if they have a spell in their hand. So there's always the disadvantage of that, but you get the hand knowledge and you can basically rip a card out of it and just send it back to the deck. And, you know, they find it a lot more difficult to get it from the deck than they do from the graveyard. Evil Swarm Ketos is a dark attribute aqua type level 4 with 1750 attack and 1050 defense. Its effect is you contribute this card, then target one spell or trap card your opponent controls, destroy that target. The attack stat on this card is quite decent, but if you really just need to get rid of your opponent's spell or trap cards, their back row, this has that flexibility as well. Sometimes having that is more of a benefit than just having a physical attack monster anyway. Evil Swarm as a Thoth is a dark attribute reptile level 4 with 750 attack and 1950 defense. The flip effect is target one special summon monster on the field, shuffle that target into the deck. This is amazing when you're dealing with various types of archetype. Any sort of extra deck monsters are a pain sometimes to remove. It's a really good solution to that. Alternatively, certain decks, you know, Dark Magician, Red Eyes Black Dragon, Blue Eyes White Dragon, as I mentioned before, are, you know, special summoning themselves all the time, so actually ripping those cards apart. Saying that, they do have ways of countering. You've got the Trap card for the Dark Magicians that is able to just negate this effect if they want to. You also have the effect of the Red Eyes Fusion, which negates this effect anyway, so you have to actually be very careful of how you use this card. Mermail Abystine is a water attribute aqua level 3 with 1300 attack and 400 defense. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Mermail monster from your hand except itself. You can only use the effect of Mermail Abystine once per turn. Send to the graveyard isn't specific. It can be through various means. It could be just destroyed in battle. It could be used as a trigger effect or as a cost for another card. And that means you can just instantly special summon a Mermail, no conditions outside of it, you know, not being able to trigger itself. It's very flexible in the deck, and some of the Mermails are very powerful and level 7, and traditionally would be very difficult to bring out. With this effect, you can bring them out with no restrictions, no limitations alongside that. Aqua Spirit is one of 4 elementals. They have, I think 2 of them are able to change battle positions. This is this one and the wind one. And the other 2, which is the fire and the earth ones, are able to either boost their attacks by 300, either during your turn or your opponent's turn. I think the other ones are Spirit of the Flames, Garuda the Wind Spirit, and I can't remember the Rock Spirit. I think think it's called the Rock Spirit. Anyway, this is Aqua Spirit. It's a water attribute Aqua type level 4 with 1600 attack and 1200 defense. This card cannot be normal summoned or set. This card can only be special summoned by removing from play one water attribute monster in your graveyard. During each of your opponent's standby phases, you can change the battle position of one of your opponent's face-up monster cards. Once changed, the monster must remain in this position for the rest of the turn. This card is good if you're looking at it for going into a rank 4 monster. You just remove a water monster, that's it, you special summon it, you summon something else, you can go into whatever you want. The kind of problem with it is it requires your opponent to have face-up monster to begin with. Chances are they might not do, or if they do, it's a form of disruption because they can't do anything with that card for the rest of the turn. That's good. Bad side is, your opponent is just going to summon something else out of frustration. They're going to think, right, that's it, I'm not dealing with this card anymore. I'm going to get rid of it before it annoys me even more. Big Wave, Small Wave is a normal spell card with the effect destroy all face-up water monsters you control. Then you can special summon water monsters from your hand up to the number of monsters destroyed by this effect. The idea of doing this is you get rid of some of your weaker, baby-looking water monsters to summon some of your big, tough monsters. That's the reason for doing this. There's no restrictions to it other than for whatever you've destroyed, you can only summon up to that number of cards. So if you've stacked your hand correctly or have managed to be lucky in what you've drawn, this is always a good option. Infestation Infection is a continuous trap card with the effect, once per turn you can shuffle one Evil Swarm monster from your hand or face up from your side of the field into the main deck, add one Evil Swarm monster from your deck to your hand. So this is able to recover and search for one of your Evil Swarms depending on what you need. So it's a means of trying to add consistency whilst getting rid of something that might be a dead card for the time being. Infestation Terminus is a normal trap card with the effect target one Evil Swarm monster you control and 2 cards your opponent controls, banish the first target, and if you do, return the second targets to the hand. And this is good depending on what your opponent is running. If they've got extra deck monsters on the field and they've spent their resources building those cards up, this is a very instant way of getting rid of those threats. The other thing as well is if your opponent tries to get rid of this with something like Giski Cyclone, this is responsive, it's not a battle trap, it's no other conditions to it. Simply get rid of one of your monsters and you just get rid of 2 of your opponents. It's archetype specific, but if you're running enough of those cards, you can splash maybe a minion engine in there if you wish. Steel Swarm Cell is a dark attribute fiend type level 1 with 0 attack and 0 defense. The effect is if you control no monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. While this card is face up on the field, it cannot be tributed except for the tribute summon of a Steel Swarm monster and cannot be used as a synchro material monster. I think the reason for that second part of the effect is it was part of this synchro generation, that's where it came out. So that otherwise it might have been restricted for Xyz or various other effects if that was necessary. It's okay because this is a reoccurring effect. Every time you don't have a monster, you can just bring this out. And that's why it's not like a once per duel effect, and that's why it's specific to the archetype. Having this consistency means that you're constantly able to go into your tributed monsters without having to require, certain other support cards. Giski Vanity is a water attribute Aqua type level 2 with 1000 attack and 800 defense. The effect is during your main phase, you can discard this card. This turn, your opponent can activate spells, traps, or spell or trap effects, or monster card effects when a Giski monster is ritual summoned, or when a Giski ritual spell card is activated. This prevents your opponent from reacting to the summoning of a ritual monster. For Gishkis, this is key because those are the boss monsters, and this is kind of a support card necessary for the deck. Giski Reliever is a water attribute Aqua type level 2 with 500 attack and 800 defense. The effect is when this card is normal or flip summoned, you can target one other monster you control, return that target to the hand. you must control another face-up Giski monster to activate and to resolve this effect. So, okay, so this is not too bad, because this is able to get rid of one of your cards. Maybe it has a normal summon effect, and so you're able to reset it so you can bring it back to using its effect the next turn. And the only problem with doing this is it does make itself susceptible. It's only got 500 attack. Normal summoning this is just not a great idea. Even flip summoning it, it still goes into attack mode. Your opponent is able to just get over this, unless you're running specific protection cards alongside. Giski Mollusk is a water attribute, Aqua type, level 4 with 1700 attack and 900 defense. When this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, look at the top 3 cards of your deck, then return them all to the top or to the bottom of the deck in any order. This helps you to determine what you're drawing for the next 3 turns. If what you're drawing is good, then, you know, it's worth keeping it. If not, better luck for the next 3 cards. Hopefully this helps to encourage the summoning of the Giski ritual monsters that much sooner, and the fact it has 1700 for a level 4 is also quite decent for the deck. Mermail Abystine is a water attribute, Aqua type, level 3 with 1000 attack and 200 defense. The effect is when this card is added from your deck to the graveyard, or graveyard to your hand by a card effect, you can special summon this card from your hand. You must control a Mermail monster to activate and to resolve this effect. When this card is special summoned by the effect of a Mermail monster, you can target one level 3 or lower Mermail monster in your graveyard, special summon that target. You can only use one Mermail Abystine effect per turn and only once that turn. So this card is really useful for bringing out rank 3 Exceeds monsters, and it pairs well for any of the tributes necessary to bring out some of your bigger Mermail monsters. Drill Barnacle is a water attribute, Aqua type, level 3 with 300 attack and 0 defense. Its effect is this card can attack your opponent directly. Each time this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by a direct attack, this card gains 1000 attack. This is part of a small series of monsters that have this kind of effect. You've got other cards out there, Mucus Yoke, Flame Sprite, probably a myriad of other cards that have similar style effects. It's one of the newer ones, even though it was released back in Yugioh Zeal. If you can protect this card, it can ratchet up those attack points like mad. Definitely worthwhile using. Jawsman is a water attribute, Beast Warrior level 6 with 2600 attack and 1600 defense. The effect is it cannot be special summoned. If you tribute summon this card, all tributes must be water attribute. This card gains 300 attack for each face-up water monster you control, except this card. Potentially this could become a 3200 attack monster at most. You can have 2 other monsters on the field, of course. It's quite decent, and it's a level 6. For a level 6 to have 2600 attack to begin with, it's brilliant. It's one of the cards that Sharks didn't really use. I think he used it like 1 or 2 duels. And then it was kind of forgotten about for the other sections of his deck, which were mostly Xyz based. It didn't get the love it deserved, and I think it should have been used even if it was used as somewhere in one of the final duels. That would have been a nice bit of memory for it, but you know, it is what it is. Different Dimension Deep Sea Trench is a continuous spell card with the effect, when this card resolves, banish 1 water monster from your hand, graveyard, or face up on your field. Then when this card is destroyed, special summon that banished monster to your side of the field. I don't know the value of using that card at the moment, just because it's just not as useful as something like Interdimensional Matter Transporter, because that's a trap card, and it can respond to if your opponent is able to kind of attack over your monster or use an effect when your monster is attacking, because that way you can banish it and then bring it back at the end of your turn. This has to stay banished, and it's specific to water attributes, and it only comes back when this card is destroyed. So unless you've got an active way of destroying this card, you can't really rely on it too much. It was used in the duel between Quattro and Shark, when they got to the final, I think it was the final 8. And he used it because I think there was an effect that was being used against Shark Drake, and he decided to banish it for that reason. Later on, to bring it back to use it as an overlay unit for his Chaosic Seas version of Shark Drake. Lemuria, the Forgotten City, is a field spell card with the effect this card's name is treated as Yuumi. All water monsters gain 200 attack and defense. Once per turn during your main phase, you can have all water monsters you currently control gain levels equal to the number of water monsters you currently control until the end phase. This card is made for Xyz summoning, being able to manipulate your monsters' levels, and the 200 attack point boost is a small bonus. The other thing about it is it being treated as Yuumi. There are certain cards within the water theme that work well with Yuumi as a card name. So any benefits of those cards as well can be splashed into this style of deck. And the final card is Sealords Amulet. This is a continuous spell card with the effect send this card to the graveyard during your opponent's third end phase after activation. Water monsters you control cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. This is a massive advantage. Even if you're just doing this for those 3 turns just to build up your field and just to get yourself into a position where you can OTK your opponent, or to just do enough damage to defeat your opponent, this is amazing. Remember, it lasts 3 of your turn, 3 of your opponent's turns, so it works for quite a lot of yours. I'm really happy about the design of this card, and I think it's an amazing card. It's often underestimated, and I think personally when people rediscover this card, they might start using it, especially since Shark is the latest character to be introduced into the Duel Links series. What do you guys think of the reprints? Is this something you'd consider running? Do you like the reprints, or were there any reprints you really wanted that you didn't get within this set? Whatever you think, leave your comments down below. Like the video if you enjoyed it. Make sure to click on the end screen to watch one of these videos. I very much appreciate extra engagement from it. And thank you for taking the time to subscribe as well if you can.